Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Crusher. I'm your co-host, Josh Brewster, with my beautiful and talented co-host, Susan Olson. Susan, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And just a little disclaimer.
Yeah.
If it always sounds like Christmas at my place,
Well,
it's because
hold her up.
Bellatrix is here.
Bellatrix is here.
Oh, Bella.
All right.
Well, for one, she does have a crush on you, but she
I
can't hear
understand.
you right now because I'm on headphones.
I understand.
My normal place for doing podcasts is still not ready. It will be ready soon, though.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, listen, let's start off with our president of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden. You know, he made some news this week. He continues to outdo himself. He was at an event where a parachuter came in. It was at a G7 summit in France, and he comes flying, or the parachuter comes flying in. You'd think this might distract him. Everybody else has their eyes on look at the parachuter, and he's just off in another planet. And a lot of people are talking about this week. And before we started the podcast, Vladimir Putin called me and said, "Do you honestly think I'm intimidated by this man?" I said, "I don't think you are. Have a great day." What are your thoughts about this?
Well, that's the problem. Nobody's intimidated by him. As much as people may have been brainwashed into thinking that Trump is evil, which is
Right.
pure junk, it's not true. Trump he was formidable. He did give us a level of respect. As much as people want to say, "Oh no, he's a fool," people respected him. I can tell you that the things that have happened, like Ukraine and Israel, wouldn't have happened under Trump's watch. But I don't believe that Biden crapped his pants at the D-Day ceremony.
Look,
he was looking for a chat, but still,
the fact anybody who is taking care of a parent over 80 or 85 years old, we're all headed there, Susan. You know, we have all these advances in longevity and all that, but you know what? No one has figured out how to preserve the brain, make it last forever. Some people don't become decrepit and then don't slide into dementia until maybe very late in life, if at all. You see, Trump just turned 78, and he's very lucid. You know, it's sad. And, you know, at some point, when is it elder abuse? Because this man is in decline. I mean, he's stiffening. He's in decline. And everybody knows it.
Yeah, I look at Jill Biden. It's elder abuse.
Everybody knows this.
Well, and they also know that he's not really the one running the show.
Well, that's not good.
And in some ways, well, and we don't know who is running the show. But I don't see, not only do I not see how anybody could vote for this man who's barely alive, if you're looking at the administration and what they're doing, how could you vote for that? But also, this looks terrible.
No, it does. It sends.
I hate to be that superficial, but it looks terrible.
No, that's what this is about. I mean, this is all about appearances and what you shed light on. And when you stop and consider how he's been dragged so far to the left, there's people dragging him in these directions. And you see the results.
And he doesn't even know it.
You see the results with the squad and everything that they want, and just this craziness that's going on. So good luck to us, because my God. See, what's concerning me, Susan, is that if Trump isn't ahead 5 or 10 points in the polls, solid, I'm very concerned about our voting system, which is our next topic here on The Crusher. But I'm very concerned because every he's up by a point or two, he's going to run away. And I heard about the red wave and all this crap. Our voting is so messed up.
That didn't happen?
No, our voting is so messed up. I'm absolutely convinced that Trump would have to be ahead by 5 or 10 points solid to win this thing.
More. I'd say even more. I mean, because who knows what they're going to do. We saw what happened when they used COVID as an excuse. This whole idea of having a voting season.
Well, it used to be election day. Used to be election day. Well, also, a lot of the world, Susan, a lot of the Europe and places like this, they don't do the mail-in voting. If you want a mail-in ballot, it's because
They
you're out of the country. That's when you get a mail-in
And you
ballot.
have to request it.
I got
Yeah.
4 ballots at my address before we moved. I got 4 ballots. Now you're going to tell me people aren't going to
How
fill those
many
out?
for the cat?
It's unreal. All
Because
right,
I'm
well,
expecting 2 extra ones for my cats.
well, on that note, news item here out of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Lara Trump, Republican National Committee co-chair, announced Friday that she and the RNC are working to raise a veritable army of over 100,000 poll watchers and over 500 lawyers to deploy at election sites across the country in November. These volunteers will have 3 missions: watch people vote, watch people count votes, and sue anybody who gets in the way. She says, I believe if we have a free, fair, and transparent election, there's no question we're all going to bed early on November 5th. And of course, she says Trump will be president. But, I have zero problem with this. And I don't even care if the Democrats want to unleash an army of observers. I don't care if Martians want to come observe. For God's sake, there's so many things wrong with our system, Susan.
Absolutely. And yes, you and me both. Play fair on both sides. Fine. Yeah, I don't like all this ballot harvesting and things. Well, things that I don't think we're very good at. No. But to keep the security up, absolutely. But how are you going to keep security up on methods that can be hacked?
No ID to vote. You want to start there?
No, that is so wrong.
If I went to
for anybody that says that bigoted, you're an idiot.
Oh, that's insanity. If any of these countries that the people on the left romanticize, Canada, Europe, anywhere, if I went to any country anywhere and I said, hi, I'm on election day, hi, I'm here to vote, they'd say, may we see your ID? That's just, it boggles the mind. And we've talked about this, and obviously we've talked endlessly about millions upon millions of illegals in the country. And, this is just here. No, this is insane. There's no ID to vote is insane. So here's the thing.
And don't
go ahead.
Don't be bullied by the people that say, because there's nothing more racist or bigoted than to assume that a black person can't get an ID. What?
You can get an ID for a library card, to cash your paycheck, to rent a car, to buy a bottle of wine. I mean, come on, this is insanity. There's hundreds and hundreds of things you have to show ID. Okay. So good for Lara Trump.
Remember in Arizona, and this is when I first decided to never watch 60 Minutes again. Arizona had this whole ID thing, where it really wasn't much of a new law. It was just saying, we're going to check IDs. We're going to make sure you're here legally. This was way back, over a decade ago. People went nuts. They lost their minds saying, it's like the Gestapo. You're going to have to show your papers. Well, I'm sorry. You have to show your papers when you write a check. When you go to the library, you have to show a card.
It's not show your papers or go to a concentration camp. It's show your papers so that you can vote. It's like if I look.
Yeah, but you're okay with show your papers if you're not vaccinated.
If you picked your kid up from a school and they said, "Show me your ID," you would understand, because you don't want someone who's not you picking up your child, right? So we're really batshit. Do you feel achy throughout the day? Are those old bones and joints not working the way that they used to? Try Placebo Factor. Placebo Factor is a unique blend of vitamins and minerals that is purely proprietary and not tested by any federal agency. Placebo Factor does not work on cats. Don't be a schmuck. Try Placebo Factor. Your friends love Placebo Factor, and so will you. Brought to you by Dr. Dumpenstein Industry. Placebo Factor. And speaking of batshit, I think that it would be a good time to talk about someone you identified this week. And I watched a podcast with this person who was evidently run for Congress. Why don't you tell us about Brianna Wu, last name W.U. She had some interesting things to say. She's a big leftist, but she's appalled at the direction that the left is going. So this is a person of some note. You introduced me to her. Why don't you tell me about Brianna Wu?
Well, I'm brand new to Wu. There was something called Gamergate, which I should know about because I was a gamer, but I spent 8 years not gaming, and I've just returned to World of Warcraft. Something I'm not necessarily proud of, but it is what it is. Anyway, I don't know anything about Gamergate, and this is where she got her name. I do believe she's a trans woman.
Yeah,
I just happened to have the Trigonometry podcast on, and she was the guest, and she was this hard leftist who was saying they'd gone too far. As much as I may seem conservative and to the right, there is I'm like a brontosaurus. I have this little tiny brain at the base of my spine that's still a hippie and wants to sing Kumbaya. And so when I see somebody on the left showing signs of realizing that they've gone too far, I love it. I drink it up.
I'll tell you a couple things that I specifically picked up. She was talking very honestly about, she apologized to the host of this show, Trigonometry, which I've never watched. She says, I was for years overlooking the anti-Semitism on the left. And I feel terrible about this. And why are we going down this path? This is all, like post October 7th. And she's talking about, this is insane that, you're cheering for Hamas. And, we've talked about this endlessly, but she's also like, people on the right, she mentioned one thing. She said, people on the right saw, people, far right crazies in, what was it, Charlottesville or something like this? Remember when the neo-Nazi types, the small group,
far right crazies that were hired?
Yeah. Well, whatever it was.
In the same buses as Antifa?
I understand. They exist, but okay, so they see them, and she mentioned that the right is always asked to expunge these people. And from my point of view, the conservatives do expunge these people.
Yes,
but
she
said something very important. She said the left is never asked to expunge the crazies. And I thought those were interesting things she said.
Because they'd have nobody left in the left if they expunged all the crazy. No,
this is why John Fetterman scares the hell out of them. It scares the hell out of them to see an actual liberal, right?
Well, maybe they all need to have strokes. Oh, that's a terrible thing to say. But I love Fetterman.
Well, but she raised some interesting things because the left, we talk a lot about a dividing line between liberal and leftist. And that's something,
yes.
Susan, I keep telling everybody, we are so conditioned to Republicans train their sights on Democrats train their sights on Republicans. Mm-hmm. We're so trained to this that the Democrats will take, I'll be 50 years in the grave, Susan, by the time they realize that the enemy is within their own party. The enemy is leftism. And I think it's, can't remember if it was Prager who said this. He's right. Conservatives and liberals have more in common than liberals do with leftists.
Oh, yeah, because they're anything but liberal. They're illiberal. I consider myself a classic liberal. And really what it used to boil down to, back when I had a podcast years ago, the purpose of it was, and this was before we got so divided, it was to say, if we really talk to each other instead of at each other, we would find out that we have more in common than we have, not in common. And what I'm realizing now is common sense is the common ground. And it used to be that if you really talk to each other, there was one dividing line, and it was a very clear one. How much government do you want? Yeah. How much do you want the government to tell you to do?
Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan. I mean, this is how we lived. It wasn't that long ago. Oh, I'm disappointed that this party won. Oh, I'm disappointed that the other party won. But you know what? Despite all the vitriol, at the end of the day, Reagan was a deal maker. And even Bill Clinton
Mhm.
was a deal maker. He made deals with Newt Gingrich to reform welfare, which was in bad need of reform. So, but we don't live there anymore. It's insane. It's
Right.
not big government versus small government. It's evil. You know, it's evil versus evil. You're evil, and the other one's evil. This is really bad. We're in big trouble. And you talk about who Biden's being led by. He's being led by people who, I mean, again, they completely ignore what Israel is up against. They completely ignore the fact that gay people, it's Pride Month, right? Gay people are free as a bird in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is like San Francisco. It's gay Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
They ignore all of this. They ignore the open border. They ignore Marxist. This is Marxism. They want an open border. They want to destroy all this. They want to overburden the welfare system. That's not liberalism.
Okay, and this is where I get into arguments with people, which is also why I really love a chance to see that we can have a bit of a kumbaya, even though that makes me vomit in my mouth. I do want us to get together when it comes to common sense. But you have to see, and like you have wisely said, so many of the states don't see what's so obvious, the border. If you can look at the border and not see that whoever's in charge now, whoever, whatever that might be, this is a systematic takedown
Yeah.
of this country. It is absolutely intentional that this country go under. All of our young people in college being persuaded to support terrorism.
And in
Hello?
elementary school.
Oh, God. I mean, and it's fashionable. It's like the PLO scarf has become the latest fashion
That's
item.
terrible. No, it's terrible.
And people don't see what they're flirting with and how dangerous it really is. And every time you try to insert some common sense, you're called names. Well, we have to stop being afraid of that. If somebody calls me a bigot because I'm using common sense, well, fine. You can call me that. I'm not going to let that hurt me because common sense is not bigotry. The open border, people are like, no, you're bigoted if you don't want these people. All they want is a better life. Well, I'm sorry, that's not why all of them are here. And fine, why are you locking your doors at night or during the day? Why don't you open it wide up? Because these people just want better stuff and you're not sharing your things with them.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's it.
and there was a jihadist. His name escapes me. There was a jihadist, like an ISIS guy, who they arrested this week. I wish I had the news item. He's one of many that are in here now. But I've said before, we've done a very poor job in the last two generations of teaching our kids what socialism wants, because we have a couple generations of people who romanticize it. They romanticize the Soviet Union. We have two generations of people who don't know what a refusenik is, who don't know who Natan Sharansky was, that he spent 10 years in a gulag for being a Jew, that what socialists want. And Ted Cruz wrote a book about this called Cultural Marxism. But of course, he's a right-wing kook, just like anybody with a reasonable thought is a right-wing kook. He's telling you what the socialists want to do is overburden the system and make it collapse.
Thank you.
That's not liberalism. It's not liberalism. But if you mention Cloward and Piven, you're a right-wing maniac.
Yeah, and we can't.
You've been to an emergency room. Have you been to an emergency room here? I hope not lately. It's a healthcare clinic. It's a healthcare clinic for illegals. That's what it is.
And over 100 of them here in California have been closed because they can't.
They can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, this is not sustainable. You talk about being sustainable for the environment. This is not sustainable. There's no way that we can have all these people coming over. That's the most blatant example.
And we live in a state that is offering free health care to illegals. Of course, it's free because Susan and Josh pay for it. It's not free for Susan and Josh because citizenship means nothing. And by the way, Trump made a great speech yesterday, and he called Gavin Newsom Gavin Newscum.
No.
Yes, he did, which I love. So let's talk about Brittney Griner for a moment. Speaking of ingrates, Brittney Griner, of course, is the women's basketball player, and She would not stand up for the national anthem. She was held in Russia, okay? She
Yeah.
was held
Yeah.
in Russia, and it was so important. Okay, Evan Gershkovich, Wall Street Journal reporter, is going to go on trial now after I think 13 or 14 months of captivity in Russia. Okay, he's going to go on trial. Okay, now there's another man. I can't remember if it's Gordon Black. I hate to say it. I can't remember his name, but there's another American, Phil Whalen. Whalen,
I
yeah,
don't
Phil.
know.
Okay, Phil Whalen. We left him there. We left him there. He doesn't check the intersectional boxes. He's a white
Yeah,
male,
right.
so we left him there. Brittany Griner, lesbian, so she has to come out immediately. Okay, all right. So we made a swap for one of the most dangerous people on earth, Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. So I'm going to read you this. Trump says now, okay, Brittany Griner won't stand for the anthem. The United States of America that freed her from Russian.
She's back.
From a Russian prison, okay,
Mhm.
and this country freed her, and she won't stand for the anthem of her own country because she's so wonderful. So Trump says Biden made the swap for the basketball player that wouldn't stand up during the national anthem. She thought there was a good time to tie her sneakers. That was not exactly the greatest trade. Biden gave, this is Trump talking, gave billion with a B on top of everything. They don't know what they're doing. And Trump is referring to the trade that Biden made in December.
They do know what they're doing.
Yeah, December of 2022, when Biden pulled the trigger on Russia's offer to exchange Brittany Griner for Russian arms dealer Victor Bout, also known as the Merchant of Death. So we trade you for the Merchant of Death. We leave other people there who are still there much longer than you were ever there. And now you can't even the simple act of standing for the national anthem, God forbid, is something you can't accept. This is where we are.
I'd have to think, because I mean, she went through this. I can't imagine that she came back from Russia saying, "I see it clearly now. Russia's doing it right. I hate America." And if she has, I want to know why. I think that she's under a huge amount of pressure.
Can we send her to Cuba? How about Cuba?
Well, I think we should send her back to Russia.
All right.
But I say that with a little bit of reservation because I'm certain that she is being pressured like crazy. No, you can't stand for the national anthem.
Yeah,
You have to show, you stick to your guns. This is a terrible country. But why this push for believing it's a terrible country? Because it's all started by cultural Marxists.
Paul Whelan, former U.S. Marine, holding U.S., British, Irish, and Canadian citizenship. Whelan was arrested in 2018 and subsequently handed a 16-year sentence for espionage. Of course, he denies the charges. And he's still there. So good luck to him. And good luck to Evan Gershkovich. Good luck. Biden has not mentioned either of their names, or whoever's running the puppet strings behind Biden has not mentioned either of their names. And no one talks about them, and the media doesn't talk about them. I'm sorry, did I say media? I meant Pravda doesn't mention.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I have all these people telling me, well, Fox has been proven, blah, 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 falsehood. I don't care. I don't get Fox. I don't have cable. I don't listen to anybody that's sponsored by Pfizer. The only reason why CNN and MSLSD have not been cited for blatant lying is because they're lying on behalf of the government. So the government's going to protect their butts. And you think you're being clever by saying Fox has been cited as being untrue. Guy, drink some more Kool-Aid and wipe your chin. It stains.
Yeah, well, look, I've always said, I mean, okay, so Fox is conservative, but the real conceit here is when all the other networks think they're objective. They feel like they're objective. And speaking of which, I think you wanted to talk about Mehdi Hassan from MSNBC. We're going to adapt tribute to stupidity. It's more like tribute to evil, but here I go. I'm going to play the jingle for a tribute to stupidity.
Tribute to stupidity.
Have at it, Susan.
Yeah, it is evil because this guy is saying Trump said the quiet part out loud
Which
in
was what?
revealing what he wants to do, which is deport people
Yeah. Oh,
who are
God
here
forbid.
illegally.
Yeah.
Um, this I'll post it on my Facebook page. This was a news story, and every single little bit of common sense that was iterated was called bigoted.
By Mehdi Hassan. Let's be clear who we're
Yes,
talking
by
about on
Mehdi
tribute
Hassan,
to
which
stupidity. Yeah.
is from MSNBC, which I think
Right.
is the worst. It's so much
Oh, it's
worse
a
than
joke.
CNN.
Oh my God,
The
it's a
fact
joke.
that Rachel
Oh, it's
Madcow
awful.
has her video saying that people were lined up around the block with gunshot wounds and wait, because people were inside the hospital dying from ivermectin overdoses. Complete blatant lie. She stole the story from Rolling Stone. No apology. It's still there on YouTube.
So what was wrong? Trump said, yeah, I think I saw part of this. Trump
Yeah.
said he wants to deport people who are in the country illegally. God forbid. And by the way, the polls do show that most Americans agree with this. So,
Yes, they do.
so of course he's a
people don't be
racist. And
afraid.
yeah.
It's
Mehdi
only
Hassan.
in the media that you see this being called bigotry. It's
Of course.
not bigotry. You are not bigots.
No.
This Mehdi guy, he is a bigot, although he may not believe what he's saying, but
No.
he's definitely going with the script where when you see common sense and basic self-preservation being vilified, you gotta know.
Hey, go to
These guys
Canada.
aren't on your side.
Susan, go to Canada, overstay your visa, enroll your kids in the schools, sign up for welfare, sign up for try signing up for the Canadian healthcare system while you're in Canada illegally, and see if you're not on the road to deportation. See what happens. Call New Zealand and tell them you want to move there.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
actually just show up in New Zealand. Just show up. Just
A
show
friend
up
of mine
and
went to work in
tell
New
them
Zealand.
tell them you need welfare. Show up in New Zealand, tell them
Yeah.
you're there illegally and that you need welfare. It won't be the Gavin Newsom response. And they got all the progressive platitudes in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, the double standards, it's like, Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself.
Oh no, of course not.
I mean, the double standard, the twisting of logic is horrendous. But what kills me is that real people, regular people, are falling for this.
Yeah.
And one of the back to Brianna Wu, so she's kind of waking up, and of course, the left are saying that she's sold out, and that she's only saying this because she's lost her popularity, and now she's going to come over to the enemy. I'm sorry. She's speaking common sense. I'm going to applaud her. I'm going to greet her with open arms until she proves otherwise. But she did still say she believes that Biden's doing a good job.
Yeah, no, I know. She's still on the Kool-Aid.
Right.
She's still on the Kool-Aid. But
once she explained that, though, it was clear that she didn't have an explanation.
No, it's interesting when people on the left want to drive a wedge between leftism and liberalism. We need more people like that. And you know what?
It's good.
Joe Manchin, John Fetterman, we need more people like that.
We do. And like Jimmy Dore, I love Jimmy Dore. He's a lefty, but he sees the light, and I just love him. And I enjoy listening to a lefty kind of more than the right. But there's one thing. They're always going to hit the hard point, and it's Israel. And then suddenly, all that lefty stuff comes out.
Oh, comes flying
and now
out.
I can't watch Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, they also look in the Bible of the left, which is of course the Communist Manifesto and all the writings of Karl Marx. There's a deep-seated hatred for Jews. If you have a book of economic theory that has a chapter about the Jewish problem or the Jewish question, you're fundamentally hateful, and it's not going to be expunged. It's just not going to be expunged. And to be a Democrat.
Islamism.
What's that?
I always thought that came from Islamism and how the left and Islam collude.
Yeah, I don't know how they're cousins. I don't know. But anyway, Susan, I'll tell you what. I have a truly stupid news item, and we need to bring some levity to this dreadfully serious podcast. And I'm going to put this under the banner of Tribute to Stupidity. It's a great news item, and I can't wait to roll it out for you. Here we go. Tribute to stupidity. Yay! An unfortunate sex mishap on a first date leaves a porn star in the hospital for 2 days. A woman has shared the unfortunate sex mishap she had on a first date, which landed her in the hospital. A woman by the name of Alicia Davis, evidently she's a popular Australian porn star, said she ended up in bed with a man after hitting it off during their first date. But their fun was short-lived after a sex toy they were using disappeared, resulting in the 32-year-old being admitted to a hospital, later undergoing emergency surgery. We decided to use an anal plug during sex when all of a sudden it felt like it had fallen out of me, she told an Australian news service. So she goes on, we stopped, I put my hand down there to recover, to discover it was gone. She ends up in the hospital, unable to remove the plug herself. Doctors performed an x-ray, which she posted online. I'll put it up here on the podcast. And she
I love these x-rays.
And they confirmed that it was inside her body. So she had to wait. She had to wait 2 days. She had to wait 2 days for rectal foreign body removal surgery after an agonizing 2-way wait. She documented parts of her time in the hospital, even sharing her plight on TikTok. Now, I bring this up, Susan, for a variety of reasons. You know, I have always been an advocate, Susan. One of my greatest causes, I've always been an advocate for sex toy safety. And, you know, it's Pride Month, and this applies to straight people, too.
You instigated the seatbelt law.
I absolutely did. It was the seatbelt law, and then it was the butt plug law, Susan. It's very important. People, be safe out there. Please be safe out there. Don't let this happen to you.
The training wheels on a butt plug are there for a reason.
And with that, Susan, I don't know if there's anything else to say. It's Sex Toy Awareness Week as part of Pride Month, but it's for straight people too. And you know, I just want to applaud you for recognizing the grave importance of this issue. So very.
And have at it, people. If you're not hurting anybody but your own butt, have at it. Absolutely. I don't care what you do in the bedroom.
I don't care. I'm just, you know, I don't want to see you go to the hospital over sex toys.
I have designed some sex product labels. So as a graphic artist in the San Fernando Valley, which is porn capital of the world.
Yep. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Clients. Well, I did also.
When you're doing graphics.
Yeah.
You didn't design.
I also provided.
You didn't design the toys. You designed the label.
No. Just the packaging, and I also provided some spaceship sound effects. Not moaning and groaning.
Right.
But I do have one porn film credit, but they didn't credit me. They just gave me $50.
But you were behind.
I did provide the spaceship noises for Love Probe from a Warm Planet. Love Probe from a Warm Planet. Yes.
And this is an off-camera role, Susan.
Yes,
right? Okay.
Totally off-camera.
Strictly off-camera. I want to emphasize.
Basically part of the music score.
And with that, that's another great episode of The Crusher. I'm glad we were able to tackle this pressing issue. And Susan, as always, it's great to join you for another great podcast.
Always great. Always great to see you, Josh.